Welcome, everyone, to episode 37 of the Chris Perish podcast. You will tell that I am sounding a little different. It's all right. It's all good. Not to worry. We have a great show here today. But first things first, I get that little bit of cleanup out of the way where we're going to thank our sponsors. That's right. You want to look over onto this side, my right side. Well, your version of my right side, my technical left side. But that's Turnbuckle Studios right there, and you want to make sure that you follow Turnbuckle Studios with all the amazing programming that you have, that you can see from them, where you can actually contact the one, the only, one of the originators of Turnbuckle Talk, Carl Carafel. Talk about the affiliation for our Turnbuckle affiliation program, and you can go do so by going to affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. That's once again affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. And then you want to go over to the other side where you see that Rogue Energy logo, where you know I like my Rogue Energy. I prefer the blue raspberry. But if you go to rogueenergy.com and you check their beautiful catalog, which now the sour candy is back, and that is an OG flavor. You can go and browse through all the great things. If you are a resident of the United States, you can check out their can flavors as well. But make sure when you're in that checkout thing, you're using the promo code PERISH, P-E-R-I-S-H. That's once again PERISH, P-E-R-I-S-H, where you can get 10% off. And if you keep using that and you keep helping by liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff for all of my channels, you could help grow the Chris Perish podcast, which you can then grow that Rogue Energy promo code from 10% to 15 to 20. We could be a Rogue affiliate. So help me help you. Also, we saw a bunch of videos at the beginning of the screen showcasing all the great shows. We will be seeing that once again, so don't worry if you missed it. We will be playing what we call the calendar once again for you guys near the end of the show. We got our friends Chris Best in the house. Good afternoon to you as well. It's technically still morning for me. 2 hours different. I know it's 12:15 for a lot of you. It's actually 10:15 for me. So it's still a little bit morning. But yeah. What do I have on that docket today? I want to talk a little bit about championships in professional wrestling. Not so much what they are, but we've seen in the last little while, whether it's from WWE with a lot of changes, like designs, like the tag team titles, the blue and white or the blue and red tag titles are redesigned to, the world tag titles, the WWE tag titles, and we got new designs because in the Triple H era, we're seeing new designs. And I'm thinking, hey, Cody Rhodes has said he wants the Winged Eagle back. Is it time for Triple H to start on redesigning other titles once again? Noticeably, I think the U.S. title needs a nice redesign. And I think it would be absolutely apropos to do it when Raw hits on the Netflix. I think starting in 2025, if you want to kind of completely rebrand all these any championships you want, I think that would be the perfect time. But I also watched an episode of AEW where we saw Jack Perry bring out a newly colored TNT championship, and it's all black, and I couldn't help but notice how many times that title has had different looks. And one thing I don't like is how every champion needs a different looking of that championship. However, I then started going through a rabbit hole and kind of looking at all the different championships and saying, do I really personally like them. So I thought it would be a fun little conversation to say, hey, if we were to redesign any titles, which ones would we want? We have Bobby Stats coming in saying good afternoon. Bobby, good afternoon to you as well. As I mentioned earlier, it's still morning for me. I am 2 hours behind. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at the United States title. I'm looking at perhaps the Intercontinental Championship. I know a lot of people still feel like that's a fresh design, but when you go back and you look at some of these lengths of the redesign of titles, a lot of them don't even last a decade. So we've been seeing that Intercontinental Championship for what, 4 years now? I believe it was redesigned in, I want to say 2020, 2021. So I think we're moving close to the 4-year mark for that version of the Intercontinental Championship. And I think, hey, I think it's done its purpose. But I would like something a little bit more modern. I would like something that screams a little bit more Triple H when it comes to these designs of the titles. I mean, you can't help but appreciate the new look of the tag titles now, can you? So I think a perfect time, if you're going to redesign the Intercontinental US title, could be in 2025. But if you are also to introduce women versions of these titles, how amazing would it be to have the redesign of the new men's with the introduction of the women's? And I do think at some point we're going to see mid-card women championships. I think it's just a matter of time. And I actually think the new women's speed title is a very good indication of whether or not we're going to see this. If the speed championship for the women's side works, I think it's a highly possibility that we're going to see a women's mid-card title in some form. And I do think if they go one, they're going to do two, one for each brand on Raw and NXT, because I also do think they're looking at the Women's North American Championship as an indication on does it help the product. But we keep hearing about how deep the women's division is in NXT. That might have a little bit of indication now with this championship because it allows you to push another championship on the women's side. And I think that could be a real strong benefit to helping that depth out. And the one thing we know with WWE, they do have depth in their divisions now, which is something I'm very happy about. Another thing I think we can talk about titles is how great the titles feel right now in pro wrestling. I think when you look at your television and you look at like the PLEs, when I say look at your television, I mean the television shows. We're seeing a lot of stories on the show, and they kind of mean something more at the PLEs, but then sometimes we're seeing the titles be like, especially the mid card, whether it's tag, whether it's Intercontinental US, we're seeing a lot of those titles kind of main event the television shows at times, as sometimes it's those titles are what's keeping you intrigued on television, whereas the PLEs are doing more so the main women's, main men's championships, and sometimes you're getting that sprinkled far and far between or whatnot. But I think it's a great mixture. We're seeing, I mean, the last time WWE crowned new tag champions for both men's, it happened on Raw, on SmackDown. It was not a PLE. So it made these shows feel a little bit more meaningful. Congratulations to Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, who became the new Ring of Honor tag team champions. And I think sometimes, like, this is a great, and let me tell you, like, it was actually a good match. It was good to watch, and it felt like going to that show, there was a reason to go to the show. You got to see something that you weren't expecting, but you're happy to see. I mean, Dustin Rhodes now, all of a sudden, is a 2-time champion under the AEW banner. Bobby coming in saying, we're seeing belts defend on PLE's Raw and SmackDown, NXT, and other companies. Yeah. And I think that's something that makes it just makes these championships meaningful. I mean, we saw Jordan Grace come into WWE, into the NXT, to challenge Roxanne Perez for her NXT Women's title. We're seeing people answer her open challenge from NXT in TNA to compete for that NXT or that TNA Knockouts championship. I'm at the belief that I think this upcoming WrestleMania in 2025, we're going to see some TNA titles being defended. We might see some NXT titles being defended. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of different collaborations come full circle at WrestleMania. But I just think it's a very healthy thing that we're seeing. Now, one of the things that I think comes with all this is, do we feel that there's just too many titles? And I think the answer is yes. But I also think we have too many talent in every company. And I think that allows the problem. This is one of those times where it's great that we have so much. But we live in a world now where, do we really need this much? I don't think we do. I think we need more consistency. And I think we need the bar to just be up here and posted down here. And I think that makes so much difference. Because we also live in a world where, longer title reigns have been a thing. And it'd be nice once in a while if we didn't have a champion being announced. Oh, they've hit 100 days, 200 days, 300 days. It's like, okay, we get it. That's why it's also important that I think, as I have the WWE Network on my television right now, I'm seeing Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. Logan Paul's the U.S. title reign. It was what it was. Now, we saw it amplified by his presence. We see it on Impulsive, which helps that championship grow. But at the same time, we didn't see it defended. So him being 100, 200-day champion, as a wrestling fan who doesn't necessarily always tune into YouTube and watch Impulsive, I will when the guests are people I care, like Dirty Dom Mysterio. Go check that one out. I don't care too much about his 100, 200 title reign. I will actually bet this. Who had a least impressive U.S. title reign? Dean Ambrose or Logan Paul? Because I thought both were pretty bad when it came to the defending and the making the U.S. title needs, especially if you consider comparing that to the John Cena Open Challenge of the U.S. titles or other U.S. champions in the past. I think those really have to be considered some of the two worst title reigns. However, beating Logan Paul for a U.S. title, that helps a guy like L.A. Knight at SummerSlam look a little bit better because the name Logan Paul carries weight, especially in today's world where you look at how big content creation and all that goes. So I also think L.A. Knight could be the perfect person to redesign that championship. And I think if you're going to redesign a championship that has a current champion on it, I think it's very important to kind of make a look, especially if it's a babyface, where they have a hand in the process. Not so much they have to have a hand in the process, but just from a perception standpoint, it could feel like they spearheaded it. You kind of look at how John Cena did that with both the U.S. title and with the WWE Championship. And let's face it, we can have our perceptions of the spinner titles all we want. But for what they did, they were huge successes. And I'm someone that loves traditional championship titles and designs. I was not a big fan of that, but you can't argue the success that those had when you made like the kid titles and you made them toys for kids, the action figures. You ever seen one of the action figures with the spinning US title? It's kind of cool. But yeah, US Intercontinental for me, 2 titles I'd like to see redesigned, but any other championships, doesn't have to be WWE, that you would like to see redesigned. I also mentioned the TNT title from AEW. I wouldn't mind seeing that just get a makeover on itself. We've already seen the women's title in AEW get a makeover. We've kind of seen alterations made on the AEW World title with the inclusion of a nameplate and side plates, I believe, too. So what other titles do you think could make for a makeover, or at least warrant a makeover? All of NXT's. I'm gonna go with that. It's no longer the 2.0, so I don't really want to see the color splatter pattern on the NXT championships. And yeah, safely they can go back to what they were right before all that. It would look just as fine, in my opinion. When it comes to championships, I will be the first one to tell you I'm a geek. I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So when I was going through kind of topics to talk about, that was kind of one that I had right there because I had watched clips of the LA Knight, Logan Paul, and just the US title. Kind of comes in. Just there's something about how it indents, like it's, I don't know, the shape of it, the 3D hologram kind of look of it. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. Also, I've held a championship that had like this like pattern where it bulges out and those edges are sharp. And I remember like I was getting to the venue and I go to grab the title because I don't want to put that in my gear bag because the edges will scrape things. And I went to go just grab the title, and obviously it dangles because I'm grabbing it by the strap. And one of the edges just scratches my leg, and it was kind of nice out, so I was wearing shorts. Oh, God. It is those little scrapes that just absolutely hurt, like, wouldn't believe. But it's just so annoying because up until that point, I'm so used that, you know, the title plates are just that. They're plates. You know, maybe they have edges within it, but they don't come out of the plate per se. So, you know, in the comments, let me know what you think about the current look of championships. Which ones warrant a redesign? WWE, NXT, AEW, TNA, MLW, whatever the case may be. And maybe I'll add that as the Spotify question. And then whatever top answers come out, I will put that in a poll version. Also, make sure you're checking out the Chris Perish podcast live on Spotify. Well, not live. It is on Spotify. Every live episode gets uploaded to Spotify directly after the original airing. Why? Because I want to make the original airing a little bit more special. You, as someone in the chat, can help be a part of the show with your comments. And then you can go back and you can look at your comments on Spotify. But also help me grow on Spotify. Not to mention, there's going to be polls. There's going to be other things in the Spotify presentation that you won't get. So partake on that. You can go back and relive it. You can also go back and be a little bit more interactive with the polls, with the questions that come in, because the one thing I'm going to make the Spotify so it feels a little bit different is give you a little bit different stuff. Moving forward, if you see the description of the Chris Perish podcast, I will have a very vanilla type explanation of what this current episode is. I will then add additional information on that on Spotify, because sometimes we just might go off the rails a little bit on the live stream, and well, that might not be in the original description. So, but it could be a little bit fun as well. We are less than 2 weeks away to Bash at Berlin. We are officially 2 weeks away from NXT's No Mercy. And I feel I'm very intrigued on both shows for completely different reasons. I have a feeling, because as of right now, we have we have Ethan Page and Roxanne Perez scheduled to defend their championships as the only planned matches for NXT No Mercy. We all know that there's a number one contenders match coming up in NXT to determine the challenger for Ethan Page. And there's a 6-woman elimination gauntlet match set to be the number one contender for the NXT Women's Champion, which is Roxanne Perez. There is part of me that strongly believes Julia will be that person to defend or to challenge Roxanne Perez for that championship. So much that when I was looking through the announcement of how they came to be for this gauntlet match, Ava Raine simply stated that all participants will be randomly selected, and they've only selected 3 so far, and that is Ren Sinclair, Adriana Rizzo, and Sol Ruca. But the one condition states they have never had a championship match before. So, Julia would be a random random participant. And then she would also have never received an NXT championship match before, so therefore she would qualify. Now I can see somebody like Stephanie Becker would also be that person. But I just have a feeling that the Julia train is a little bit more hyped at this point than Stephanie Becker, even though I badly want to see Stephanie Becker and Rhea Ripley in some shape or form in this company. And I'm leaning towards Joe Hendry challenging Ethan Page for this championship, only to see at No Mercy the man who turned heel on Joe Hendry at Slammiversary, Josh Alexander, to help Ethan Page retain his championship, and therefore also creating more into the story that was Josh Alexander, Joe Hendry on TNA. I have a feeling that's the direction. And then so far for Bash at Berlin, we only have 3 matches confirmed. That is Gunther versus Randy Orton for the WWE Heavyweight Championship. We have Kevin Owens challenging Cody Rhodes for his Universal Undisputed WWE title. And then we have Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley challenging Liv Morgan and Dirty Dom, which, this is my gripe on this match. I don't think Dirty Dom should be in this match. I think it should be Finn Balor. Rhea Ripley has a huge problem with Liv Morgan that warrants those 2 being in the match. But Damian Priest's number 1 priority, I believe, is Finn Balor, not Dom Mysterio. So I believe it should be Damian Priest and Rhea going up against Finn and Liv, not Dom and Liv. And then Dom could cost Rhea or Priest the match, and we can garner a little bit of heat there. And then we can go into a match at Survivor Series, which I think we can then have our payoff with Rhea Ripley beating up Dom Mysterio while reclaiming her championship that she never lost, by the way. Held for over a year, but never lost. My question is, what matches would you want added to both No Mercy and Bash at Berlin? And what do you think we are more linked towards? Obviously, with NXT, we have 3 different championships and potentially a Heritage Cup that we could still bring in. I think Wesley versus one of Trey Miguel or Zachary Wentz could very well be put on this card. No Mercy is a very apropos PLE title when you think about what that feud has. So I'm very intrigued what everybody in the comments thinks about these 2 shows and what you want to see. Do we want to see Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz go up against Wesley? Do we want to see a 1-on-2 match? And hear me out. Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel versus Wesley. One person betrayed 2 men. So do we want to see a 2-on-1? I think Wesley, if that match got announced, I don't think even though I do think Wesley in his own mind did the right thing by doing what he did, he also dug this hole for himself as well, where now he pissed off 2 people and he has to answer to 2 people. So what would you do in this scenario? How would you book this? Are we primed to see just 1 versus Wesley? Or would 2 make sense as well? I think either way, it makes sense. I think another match that would be very intriguing to see would be a North American Open Challenge match on both ends because I would love to see TNA crossovers as challengers for both Obafemi and I'm trying to blank on the NXT North American women's name. Bobby Stats, if you're in the chat, you can help me out right now. As I kind of go into my why, I would like to see that. I think right now there's nobody for Obafemi to go up against, really. He just had a win against Otis where he did an open challenge. I think it's the perfect way for you to take off that title right now. And and I think this is a great way to bring in somebody maybe from TNA who I think wants something, wants a match, wants something, isn't liked with what he's doing. And I look right at a Mr. Hammerstone as a great potential person to answer this challenge. I also mentioned earlier Josh Alexander, and I think Josh Alexander holding up the North American Championship, renaming it the NXT Canadian Championship, and then ending the show with the NXT Heavyweight Champion in Ethan Page. We have the North standing tall in NXT Come on now. Come on now. And then, I don't know, like, to me, I'm just not sold on the current state of the North American women's title. It's okay. But I'm just not too sure if it's something that I have piqued interest on as. So I'm just a little bit of technical difficulties are coming in. But my problem with who, as I'm just searching up the champion right now, because this is bugging me too much. Kalani Jordan. Jesus. How did I not know that? I think she's fine as your original champion. I don't think she has made me care about this or cared about this championship the way it needed. It needed. Yeah. So I think it's time to maybe put someone else in this position. And I'm thinking maybe Fallon Henley. I'm thinking if you were to go to the TNA route and think who, as much as I hated Ash by Elegance, could be that annoying champion. Could very well be that annoying champion. But I'm starting to think, okay, if you were to have someone like a Mickie James come out, and if Mickie James was to come out, I would definitely have Kalani Jordan win this match. If you have somebody of a bigger name, like a nostalgia act, and I feel bad by saying that, but somebody who, they wrestled in the last 15 years. They're not a newer talent like NXT really is. It's that up and coming group of talent, right? But somebody who's more proven, more of a veteran, more of an established name, way better than nostalgia. So my apologies. I would have Kalani Jordan win all over that name. Unless I'm doing something big. Because if I'm doing something big, the one thing I'm taking into account is NXT is also starting to travel now. So you need that person to be traveling with NXT defending that title. So I could see a Natalya, who just recently re-signed with the WWE, maybe take that role. But at the same time, I'm trying to do what I can to make Kalani Jordan as big as possible. I don't dislike her. I just don't think her reign as a champion is just memorable at this point. So I would look at that for sure being. I would look at the North American titles as being in jeopardy at No Mercy. That's what I'm saying. As for Bash and Berlin, the only championships I can see being moved, if defended, are the women's tag team championships. As much as I don't want that, I'd love to see Unholy Union retain. I also think they are the most subject to have a new champion. I don't think Braun Breaker is going to lose the IC title. I don't see LA Knight losing the US title. I don't see the Bloodline losing their titles. Although that one I could. Street Profits winning, though, I think could actually help that, as we saw the Street Profits defeat DIY on SmackDown to become the new #1 contenders for those tag titles. JD and Finn, I just don't know. Would you do Sammy and Jay? Like, what would be the team? That's my problem. There's no feud right now going over those titles, so I don't know if I'd even have them defended at Bash or Berlin. Gunther, I don't think is losing his title. Cody, I don't think is losing his title. Living defending her title at the show, and I just don't see Nia Jax losing her championship. So I kind of go to one of the tags, whether it's the Bloodlines tag titles or it's Isla Dawn and Alpha Fire's tag. Those are the only titles I see that could be moved at Bash at Berlin. So my then secondary question for everyone is, are you looking forward to Bash at Berlin, knowing that the results could be very predictable in the sense of you already 2 weeks out know exactly what they're going to be doing. You know exactly who's going to win what matches. You know Cody's going to beat KO. You know Gunther's going to beat Randy. I have a feeling Priest and Rhea are going to defeat Liv and Dom, unless Finn Balor gets involved. And I think if Finn and JD aren't defending their titles, Finn definitely gets involved. And you know what? Roxanne Perez, if it's somebody like Julia, I can see Roxanne Perez lose her championship. It'd be a great way to establish Julia right away in NXT. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments here, as I'm very intrigued because I am going to watch both No Mercy and Bash in Berlin. I just want to see the reception for Gunther as World Heavyweight Champion in Berlin, Germany. Especially with Kaiser introducing him as the champion. I think we all know that's happening. So let me know what you guys think in the chat. Another thing I pegged was 2025 predictions, where I'm going to have some fun predicting who I think the winners of the Royal Rumble, King and Queen of the Ring, and who the Money in the Bank winners will be. But before I do that, I did say earlier that I will replay the calendar once again for you guys. So let me do that, and we'll come back with my prediction of 2025 on August of 2024. All right. And make sure you're checking out tomorrow, where I return with a run-in, of course, to the Raw Patrol, live on Turnbuckle Studios. at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live on all the Turnbuckle platforms, where I am going to be alongside the Chris Bests, potentially the OMD and Carl Carafel, and I don't think Bubba Duke will be available tomorrow, as I think he is away due to work. But yeah, that's usually the core group there. So make sure you're checking out the Raw Patrol tomorrow, 8 p.m. on the Turnbuckle Studios. Now, I'm going to be full-fledged and showing you guys, these are my notes for the show. As you see, I just have 2025 predictions circled. I don't even have a name. So I'm doing this on the top of my head right now. I'm going Royal Rumble winners. Right now, 2025, who do I have pegged as the Royal Rumble winners? On the woman's side, I have Jade Cargill. Now, you might ask why. And I say, very simply, because you want to see how big of a star she can be. Within a year of her debut at the 2024 Royal Rumble, we're seeing progression after progression after progression. 2024, we saw Bayley win the Royal Rumble, someone who is considered a workhorse champion. Workhorse person in the WWE. And I don't think they're going to go that route a second year in a row. In fact, I think they might go for more of a star-studded match. Or I think it's very much a possibility that Bianca Belair could be champion by this point. And I think the match at WrestleMania is Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill for a women's championship. For the men's, now we're obviously going to get a change. I do not foresee Cody Rhodes making it a three-peat. Just like I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are making it a three-peat this year. I have Jey Uso winning the men's Royal Rumble match. And my number one reason, Gunther already won a championship. Had Gunther not win a championship, I would have had Gunther as my runaway favorite. I think whatever match you have Roman Reigns pegged for doesn't need a championship. In fact, I think you're doing Roman Reigns versus Rock at WrestleMania in Las Vegas. And I think that ultimately comes down to the winner will be officially acknowledged by the loser as the undisputed head of the table. And I think that's all it needs. It's Roman Reigns versus Rock. For the first time ever at WrestleMania, where The Rock has himself stated that is a WrestleMania main event every time. I think you're doing Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, and I don't think that needs a championship. I think you're doing Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. That could be for a championship. I just don't know if it will. But Jey Uso versus Gunther, potentially, as of right now, that's what it would be. I think there's always that one match where it doesn't feel like a mecha match, but you know it's going to deliver. Jey Uso versus Gunther for the world title at WrestleMania, I know will deliver. All right. My Money in the Bank winners. For my men, Ludwig Kaiser. For my women, Lyra Valkyrie. Simply put, I think right now there is a stopgap for the momentum of Lyra. I think that's somebody that we know is just in a position where right now there's just nothing for her. And I think we know how good she is. We know what she's capable of. She is a future champion, and I think put the Money in the Bank briefcase on her. I think it's going to be very interesting, and it allows her to jumpstart her career right back into a position where you want to see her in. And I think in due time, you want to see her in that title spot. Also, I have a feeling she could be drafted to SmackDown. I think one of Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill could be drafted to Raw. My guess is we'll probably see Bianca drafted to Raw. My men's Ludwig Kaiser. I think Ludwig Kaiser is the perfect villain to have a Money in the Bank. I think he is somebody that I think the company is very high on. Again, as a single star, could be lost in the shuffle. Sometimes it's very easy just to pair him back up with Gunther. But I think you want to see where he stands on his own 2 feet. And I think an opportunity to become, whether it's Intercontinental Champion, whether it's Money in the Bank, I think it matters. And I think that's why maybe give him the Money in the Bank, something that doesn't follow suit in Gunther's path. Gunther was the IC champion. Maybe you give Kaiser that Money in the Bank briefcase so he doesn't do what Gunther's already done, because Gunther's never been Money in the Bank. He's been King of the Ring. He's been Intercontinental Champion, now World Heavyweight Champion. Some tells me I would like to see Ludwig Kaiser carve his own path. For my King and Queens of the Ring, I look at just this year's. We had 2 heels. We had Gunther, we had Nia Jax. Both who took the new cherry on top, which was, if you win, you get a guaranteed title shot at SummerSlam versus your brand's champion. Nia Jax defeated Bayley, while Gunther defeated Damian Priest. This year, for my King of the Ring, I am taking Sami Zayn. And for my women's, I am going with Charlotte Flair. I know a lot of people probably don't like the Charlotte Flair category, but it's officially known now as the Queen of the Ring. Charlotte is the queen. It makes a little too much sense. Also, as much as you don't want to see Charlotte Flair maybe back in the title scene, maybe you do. I don't know. She just doesn't come back and do nothing. She will be throttled back into a world title picture at some point. I think right away, maybe not. But the one thing she will do is compete in the Queen of the Ring. That allows her an opportunity to have a title match at SummerSlam. And I think if you wait all the way to SummerSlam for her first title match back in the company, I think that's okay. There's a lot of individual feuds that she can have before that don't circle around a championship. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte at WrestleMania? Right? So, yeah. I'll repeat that from our Royal Rumble winners. I had Jey Uso for the men's, which, that would be a moment. Yeetlemania or Yeetmania, whatever you want to call it, that would be very cool. Very cool. I already forgot who I said from our Women's Rumble. I already did. I'm just not me today, man. I'm just not me today, guys. My apologies. Who did I pick for the one? Jade Cargill. Gee, oh my God. See, I'm not me. I'm just not me. And then my Money in the Banks, I had Sami Zayn. I had Charlotte. Or, sorry, for my King and Queen of the Rings. For my Money in the Banks, I had Ludwig Kaiser and Lyra Valkyria. On that note, people, I think it's time for me to get some R&R. Get to watch the Saints preseason game today, so I am very ecstatic. I want to thank you guys for just taking the time out of your Sunday to spend with me, support me, all like you do with your time. Time is a very valuable asset, and I appreciate that. If you want to follow me, make sure you're going to all my socials. You will see in the outro screens where you can do that. That is my link tree. But also, if you can, make sure you hit the like, you hit the subscribe, you hit the follow, you hit that notification bell, and you help this channel grow, because I'm going to be flat out transparent with you guys. I need you guys to help me grow, because this is a journey, and I know in a journey you can't do everything by yourself. I need you guys, and I hope you guys follow me through this journey so we can rise and become even greater. It'd be just amazing to say at one point we did it. I'm watching all these videos of people receive these plaques from my YouTube with whether it's 100,000 subscribers, and I can only imagine, can I do this? So people, I'm willing to put in the effort. If you're willing to put in the follow, put in the support, because I know I can't do this alone. But for that, my name's Chris Perish. I am the host of the Chris Perish Podcast. I will see you guys next week for episode 38. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and go Saints.